Looks like the recording is coming out full screen. Okay, today we're going to practice a little bit, finishing up our Bible database. We have a database. We'd like to make it a little more capable of and have more information we can store in there. So let's take a look at our database, and we'll adjust the design. And then with the new design, we're going to have to create new forms because the old forms were created with our older design. So let's bring up our old database and make some modifications. So I'm going to go to the section Bible database here that we've started last time. We have our 3 Bibles. Remember, we imported those Bibles from the text file. I can view the text. Each verse has a primary key attached to it, and then the number of the book that it's in, chapter in the verse, and then the text of the verse. Remember that number of the book, we did that. We had a number and the book name redundantly listed in every record. And if I ever decide to change or put in a different language or fix any typos in my names, I would have to go back and change the name for every verse. But we took the name field out of there and are only referring to the number of the book because the book number is matched to a name in the book name and number table. Take a look at that table. There's the matching of a book number with the actual name. If I decide to name something different or fix a typo or change the language of my book names, I could simply change it there, and my book table, my book number would still be referred to correctly by all the verses in the text. So that's the relationship, and we try to set, it's a fairly simple relationship. But now let's add a few things to our structure. We have a database someone gave to us. We'd like to make it a little more useful. So let's go to our ASV Bible and right-click on Design View and think what might be useful as I study my Bible to actually use more than I have the name of the book, the chapter, verse, and the text. How about if I'm reading this? Suppose I have a reading plan for the year, and let's have me be able to check off my verses as having been read for the year. I'm going to read through the Bible in a year, and as I read it, I want to check off as I read that it has been read. So I'm going to make a field called Has Been Read. And the data type there, let's make that let's see, what could that be? How about a yes, no? And I'll put a little note there. Checked when read. Now I could have my little form check it as I read it, or maybe auto check it in some way. But we'll just add that field, has been read, and then maybe I'd have to create a update query for each year to uncheck everything when I'm starting a new yearly reading for the next year. But this will help me do my yearly reading, check it off that it's been read. Now, let's add another field. Suppose I want to take notes as I study. Let's add a note and make it of data type. Let's see, what data type could I make that of? Let's see, short text. I know I only have a limit on my notes. If I'm going to keep short notes, I could go with short text. But let's give us the capability of having longer notes by changing my note to be long text. And I'll put a little comment in there, notes on this verse. But my problem is it's text only. It's not bad, but maybe I want something more than a note to attach to the verse. How about, let's call it media. Suppose I want to be able to attach any kind of media, and I'm hinting you at the type of data this would be. Now there's this mysterious thing called an OLE object. We can skip that one. But attachment, we know how to do attachments, or it sounds like we ought to know how to do attachments. Let's make that an attachment. And the cool thing about attachments is you can have multiple things attached. So files, pictures, videos, video clips. I can attach a lot of things to that. And let's see, what else could I do? We have notes, check mark for has been read. Let's see, what other type of data could I attach to a specific verse? Well, I suppose if there's an interesting website associated with that verse, let's add a hyperlink. Let's just call it a URL. Now I could name the URL in my note, but the thing about the URL, if it's a hyperlink, I can actually make it clickable. It will take me to that note using my default browser as I'm reading my Bible. So we've added now 4 different fields, adding commentary in the description. And now let's view our table after saving the modified structure. And basically what I see is those added columns to my Bible table for the ASV Bible. And so as I'm reading through it, has been read, I can just check it as I read it. And that can be my reading plan, and I could even have a report of what verses I have read or what verses are yet to be read. Little annoying thing here is at the top of this column I see a paperclip. I'd rather see the word there. Let's add or modify the caption here. I can either do it in design view or here in the table fields I can choose to select name and caption, and I can give it a better caption of media rather than the paperclip symbol. And now I can click OK, and now I have a better title at the top. So I see how has been. I can check and uncheck that as I'm looking at my data. Let's see the note. I could attach this as a note. How would I attach media? Let's see what happens. If I double click on that paperclip, it pops me up to my add attachments dialog. And let's go ahead and add attachment. Let's pick how about a picture that I have in my picture box. Here's the founders of Emmaus. And look at that. I can add multiple attachments to my particular verse. So that's a cool thing. I can have multiple attachments, and then whenever I want to view them, I think if I click on them and just double click on the file, it will pop it up in the default program. And here's another one, famous soccer basketball players. So attachments very flexible to allow attachments to my verses in the ASV Bible. So I've modified the structure of my ASV Bible with media. And just for fun, I added an example note, example attachments, and the checkbox. Added 4 records to the ASV Bible table. Now let's see how that would work if I actually want to now view or read the Bible with a nice form. Let's see how this will look. I'm going to close my table, saving my changes. Let's create a form to view the records one at a time in my table. Remember how to create a form. If I have the table that has everything I want to view, I can simply select the table, click Create, and click Form. The 3-click method to create a form. I have the table all designed, Create, Form, and now look at how my attachments work. My media, even though I have 2 attached, I was hoping it would show both of them. It's only showing the last one. Where's there? I have a little navigator through my media. I was thinking it would show them side by side. I have Media Navigator. If I have multiple attachments on that media, that little guy shows up. I don't see that until I click on it. Then I have my little Media Navigator. I'm not terribly thrilled with the the friendliness of that, not knowing you can navigate till you click on it, but at least I can see, oh, okay, there's multiple pieces of media attached to that particular verse. And if there were a URL, and if I view it in form, I could actually enter a URL, and let's put www.emmaus.edu, and let's see if I click on that, it takes me to my default browser and to the Emmaus website. So I could have put the website link here, but it doesn't become a clickable link because that's not a URL. If it's a hyperlink, it actually, I can have that website take me there. Right now I only have one hyperlink I could attach per verse. Well, that's probably good enough for now. And because this is long text, it looks like I have a slider letting me make a very long note, and in the form, as I read, I could check that it's been read as I one by one read through the Bible. I'm not sure I'd want to read through the Bible verse by verse like this, so I'd rather have a chapter and read quickly, and that's something later on. I could make a fancier form that shows whole chapters at a time. I'm not going to make you have to do that. As long as you know how to modify a table, and then we created a form based on the modified table. Okay, and I'm going to save my changes because I've adjusted that form. Give it the name ASV Bible, and now whenever I want to view that, I can click on my ASV Bible form, listing my verses one at a time, navigating through all 31,102 verses. Now I could do the same thing on my Net Bible and add notes to it, but you know what? I'd rather add notes to either one rather than have to have a separate note. Remember, in my ASV Bible, I added notes to the ASV Bible table. So when I'm reading the Net Bible, the design of the Net Bible doesn't have notes. So right now my notes are only attached to my ASV Bible. I would like my notes to be able to attach to any Bible verse or any version of the Bible verse. So how would I do that? Now, if I want a note that attaches to either the Net Bible or ASV Bible, since those are two separate tables, I need a separate table of notes, because when I modify the ASV Bible, the notes are only in my ASV Bible. I need to keep my notes outside of the ASV Bible table, and then through some relationship attach them or reference them to a specific verse of any version. In order to do that, I think I need to design a new table. Let's go through that to review how we design a new table. Create, table design. Let's jump right to create table design. We're going to create a table of notes with a similar information, but more flexible. Okay, so create table design, and typically our first field is an ID field, a primary key. Let's call it note ID. Make that my primary key. We're going to make it auto number because I don't care what the number is. I'm going to let it choose a number. Make that my primary key. In tables, usually the first one, it's good practice just to make the first one your primary key. If you don't care what the form is, choose auto number. Now, for my note, I'm going to have the text. I'll call it note text. And let's make that to be able to be a long text associated with my note. Text only note info. Let's add media. Let's call it media, for we can attach media to any note and make that an attachment. Let's see what other type of data. How about this? Date entered. Anytime I take a note, I want to keep track of when I entered that note. And let's make that a date and time. Date note was created. Now, I don't want to have to type in the date and time. How about we have it automatically set to by the computer. How do I do that? Well, the default value, we want the default value to be the time that I created the note. Here's how I do that. I go to the builder over here, the little three little dots for building of the default value. And let's see what functions are there. Let's look at functions, built-in functions, date and time. And down here I see a now function. We use that once in Excel. It's also there in Access. I double click on now, and up here in my builder it puts that in for me. I click OK, and watch what shows up in the default value is equal now, open and close parenthesis. Just like that function in Excel gave you today's date, this will set the default value of any note I take to be today's date. And of course it will let me modify it because it's the default value. I'm able to change it. And I'm not gonna set required or index to be anything yet. So far I have notes, but I should know what verse they're attached to. And I'm thinking that's probably something, maybe we'll put it right after the ID. Let's insert a row right below the note ID. I'm going to do right click, insert row, and let's have that be the book number. In our note, I'm going to have the number of the book, just like in my text I have the number of the book, and that's going to be a number, and I'm going to type here reference or a reference or related to book number in guess what table? In the book number table. Book name and number table. Book name and number. Whenever I refer to a book number, it's going to be a book number in that table. Oh, and we need a chapter and verse. Let's insert those at the top here too. Insert row, the chapter number, and that's a number. Again, a relationship to our the text, and verse. Insert another row, the chapter and verse. So now we can attach any note, well, a note to any chapter in the Bible, and it doesn't matter which version. These are notes that can be attached. They're only references, book number, chapter, and verse. Number of chapter and the number of the verse. This allows us to create notes not specific to a specific Bible. So I can have note for Genesis 1:1, and it doesn't matter which version I'm reading, I will still have a note associated with book number, chapter, and verse. Another thing about this note table is I can have multiple notes attached to the same book, chapter, and verse, where if I have the ASV Bible, I can only have one note, and if I ever want more media, I can only attach it to this location, and there is no date associated with it because there's only one way to change that. I can keep adding to this note with the notes table that I haven't saved yet. That will allow me to attach multiple notes as I come to read again or read someone else's note, and I can keep track of multiple notes on the same verse. So much more flexible way of having notes. Doesn't matter which, it's not attached to a specific version of the Bible. It's simply attached to a book, chapter, and verse, and I can have multiple notes attached to the same book, chapter, and verse. Let's save this, and let's call this our Bible Notes table. So now we have a new Bible Notes table. Right now it is empty because I haven't created any notes yet. If I wanted to create a note, I could actually edit this table right here and choose a book number, chapter, and verse. But I'd rather be reading the Bible and then see the notes attached to that particular verse. But this does allow a much more flexible way of connecting to verses. We do need a little relationship here, though. We've created a table. We have notes associated with a name, with the number of a book. Do you see what relationship we need to have in my database tables relationships? Let's go to our database tools now. Relationships. We have a new table that we need to add in our relationships. I'm going to right click, show table. There's my new Bible Notes table. I double click on that. And what's the relationship? Well, when I'm referring to a book number from my Bible Notes, I must make sure I'm referring to an existing book number. So I add the Bible Notes to my relationships, drag book number from the Bible Notes table to the book number of my table that's keeping track of the name associated with my book. And I want to choose Enforce Referential Integrity. That means I don't ever refer to a non-existent book. And I click Create. Now I have that relationship that a book number is being referred to by Bible Notes. I'm making sure you don't accidentally type a book number that doesn't exist when you're creating a note. And then I can close, and now I have that relationship between my additional associated that with a new table that I just created. So Bible Notes now knows book number refers to that book number, even though it's not spelled the same. See, I didn't put a space between book and number. It's best to try to keep consistent, but I can still establish that relationship. Meaning when I refer to a Bible by its number, it must refer to an existing Bible number, and then I know the name of that book. And I can close then the relationships. So let's now go to my notes table, and I could pick a book number, chapter, and verse, but let's make that a little friendlier. Let's be able to see the name of the book and the chapter and verse. So now let's go down to, how about a query? And let's build a query that will allow us to attach a note to a verse. And let's do that by creating a new query from scratch. Again, to give you practice at queries. So create, query design. Now let's work with just the ASV Bible for now. We want to see the, and I need to see my book names because I want to be able to see the name of the book. So let's put book name, chapter, verse of the Bible, the text of the Bible, just like we did our other queries. Now let's add Bible notes to be able to be attached to a verse by clicking Bible Notes. And let's choose to see right now just the text of my Bible note. Right now, if I add a note, it will I will be required to enter a number for the chapter and verse. Let's just see how that will look. I have the query, and I have associated a note with that verse. If I view the results of the query, I get nothing listed. Wait a minute. Why am I not seeing anything in my results? I've attached a note, all by just attaching a note to the verse. Look at that. Nothing. Why is that? Well, it's this relationship right here. Let's click on that and see what this is, what my choices are. Right now, the default in a query is to show me the Bible verses that have a note attached to them. That's how this works. When I make the link, by default, it's called a normal join. Only show me the Bible verses that have notes. Well, I don't have notes on all the verses, and actually I don't have notes on any verses yet. So this can't just be a normal join. I want to see notes even if there's not and I want to see Bible verses even if there is not a note attached. So this is where this different kind of link makes sense, that I want to see all the records from my Bible notes, from the book name and number, and records from my Bible notes. Now let's see what we get in my query. I click data. Now I see all the verses of the Bible, and if there happens to be a note attached, it will also show me the note. Let's see if I can add a note to Genesis 1. Note. Oh, I can't add a note because I haven't saved the query yet. So design view, see how this little link changed. This basically means show me the note if there happens to be a note. That's where I had to choose this. Show me all the records from Bible name and number, even if there's not a note attached. Now another thing I might want to do is show me the note associated only with that particular verse each time. And let's see if I can do that. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Show me the note associated with each chapter and each verse. Let's see if this will break. It's getting a little more complicated, and I'm hoping, just like when I have parallel versions, that I only want to see the note if there is one attached to Genesis 1:1. Let's see if it's happy with that. Oh, it doesn't like that. It wants it to be more complicated. So I'm going to remove those links there because it's not happy. Here it'll show me a note if it's attached, and I think it's going to be a little weird. If I want to do something fancier, I have to actually make multiple queries, and I don't want you to have to worry about that. But I can make more generic notes, essentially, by making it a separate table. That's the only way I can see notes. And if I want to see verses even without notes attached, that's where this particular line here can't be just the normal, only show me verses that have notes. I have to add this, show me any verses, and if there happens to be a note attached, show me the note. So that's how it gets complicated very quickly, just by adding the ability to attach a note without having to put it right in the structure of each Bible. Right now, ASV Bible has the notes available. The Net Bible, I haven't added the notes to the Net Bible. So right now, with the easy way of adding notes, they only go with the ASV Bible. They don't have a date attached to them, but I can still do the media and URL. But each verse in the ASV Bible is the only one that has notes now. If I want something more generic that can go with any verse, that's where my notes table comes in. But to work with that takes a little more complexity. And this is where you hire a database person to help you get by the more complexities of trying to view a note for a particular chapter and verse. Takes a little bit more work But that's something we'd leave to the expert that knows how to build a query and then attach a note to a query instead of the table. And I don't want you to have to worry about that much. The main thing I want you to be able to do, and we're going to go ahead and save this query. I'm going to save it as ASV with notes. The main thing you need to know that you'll be required to do on the final is you'll be given specs about tables to create and what to put in them. So design view, you'll say, I would say, build a table with these fields in it, and I might have a field called birthday for a listing of people. I'm not going to tell you what type of data type. I'll just say use the appropriate data type. So right now we've chose a data type of yes, no for checked when red. If I have a birthday for someone, that would be like, it should be obvious that the data type should be date time. For the ASV Bible right now, we could add the time that we first created a note. So let's go ahead and add the date created. Make that a date time. And let's do the default value to be today's date. Since I know that now function is what it created for me, I can just type that in. Unless I want to go with the builder and look for functions, I could just as well have just typed in equal now empty parentheses, and it will make the default date of a note to be today's date. And if I view the data now in the table, saving the changes, I will see a new column, date created, and if I ever added a new record to my Bible database, that's where the default value of today would be. Since these records are already there, the default value is left blank. If I wanted to modify or write a modify query, I could update all my notes to have date created to be today. That would be a update query. Right now, all the date createds are left as blank. So this is why the extra notes table would be more convenient, but just having it in a separate table introduces a lot more complexity. So the thing here to remember is to change the design of any table, right-click, Design View, and you can add more things to the existing records of the table. If you want to add related information, like Bible notes, creating a new table is much safer. I'm not messing with the current structure. I'm just adding a new table to go along with the existing tables. But to relate them, remember I had to go to the database tools and adjust my relationships to make it clear that book number is referring to a book number table. Remember, with this relationship, it means you can't accidentally type a bad book number if I'm adding a note. That enforces relationships to be an existing book number. Okay, so we modified the structure of the database. Now that we've modified it, and I have the ASV with notes query now, it has the note text. Now I can create forms to modify and browse through my new table. Let's see, ASV with notes has the note text. That query though doesn't show me my media. Let's add the media to this part by going to Design View of my ASV with notes. And right now, instead of just the note text, let's also add ability to add an attached media. And is there other things in that table? And the date entered. Remember, this is a query now on the ASV Bible. and I can add a note to that verse. I can modify the note. And now over here I see now notes. Oh, let's set the caption of that one to be media instead of that paperclip. Let's see, can I fix that there, or do I have to fix it over here? Let's see here. Media. Right now if I run, I get a paperclip at the top. Let's try the media colon. See if that'll do it. Media colon and then media. And oh, it still leaves the paperclip at the top. Huh. I just realized. Let's try square bracket media. Maybe that'll work. No, it stays a paperclip. Huh. All right, never mind that. I wanted a better caption at the top of the column for that query.
I fixed it doing it the same way you did it last time.
Huh.
You just highlight the field, go into the field design.
Well, I'm in the query though, and I thought I could. The results of the query, yeah, in the media we can modify the caption, but apparently in the query, I hadn't realized this, that the query still shows just a silly paperclip, even though I tried to get it to show. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to add another column. Let's just try media colon and then square bracket media. This will be crazy if this is the only way it'll work. And show that column. Let's see what that shows. Oh, I guess I can't give the name. Oh, I see. ASV Bible Media. Let's try just the letter M. And it's still, oh, there it does show media at the top. That's interesting. And it shows notes attached for that particular verse. So if I don't do that, let's see what I get. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I don't know why it didn't work. So media from Bible Notes or media from ASV Bible. I see, because there's two medias. There's a media in the Bible, the media in the notes. Let's see if I can show media from the notes. Oh, and it doesn't see any there. So I can play around with the structure of the query as well, and since I have media in either the notes table, and I named it the same. This is another risk. Naming the column the same in two tables can be result in confusion later. Which media am I referring to? The one from ASV Bible or one from my notes? And I can choose to be the one from ASV Bible for that one. And I can't give it the same name. I have to give it an expression to go with it for my query. Okay, so we have now created a query based on different structure in the tables. Now, let's go ahead and save that. Suppose now we had forms that were working before. If I want forms on the new version, right now here's our form from before, or that I had recreated. That was only there because I had recreated that form after modifying my Bible. If this is the query I created before, it doesn't know about the new data because this form was created from the table before it was modified. If I want to create a table that views all the fields available, that's where I have to recreate the form. Anytime you change the structure and you want to have that structure visible, I have to recreate the form. And remember how that was done. Choose my table, choose create, and choose form. And I have a form viewing that table. It comes out a little different now. Or choose a query and let's call it ASV with notes, and create form. There's the form based on a query. Each one comes out a little different because this one has a little bit more information, and so it stretched across 2 columns. And if I like that, I can go ahead and close it, saving changes. If I look like this one, I can close it, saving changes. And it asks for a name. So anytime you create a note or make a change, you can recreate forms. Let's do the report. You will be asked, given a table that you have designed based on instructions, to create a report. Let's say we want to create a report on our ASV Bible. How about the Parallel Bible? I want a report. A report is essentially something able to be printed out or saved as a PDF. Let's click on that, click Create, and click Report. That's as easy. You don't have to worry about any report design. You don't have to use the report wizard. We can just go Create Report. It gives me the default formatting of a report of the information that query provides. Because this query provides you the entire Bible in parallel, or the verses that exist in both Bibles, I will get a report with 31,000 lines in it. Probably not going to send that to a printer. I could save it to a PDF and have a parallel Bible in somewhat of a strange format in this columns, but that would be listed in my output. And if I wanted to actually print that, I could view it as print preview and print it to a PDF. Wouldn't want to print it to a printer. Here in print, I could say print to PDF, and I'd have a PDF of the Bible in parallel. That's things I can do once I have created a report. Reports are generally meant to be something to be printed out on a printer. They don't have to be, though. They can save them to print to a PDF and then send that PDF. And it'd be not a super large PDF because a few hundred meg, but I'd have the entire Bible. And right now, I notice here apparently my parallel Bible is not being printed out in a very good order. Look at that crazy order. I better go fix that. I just noticed it's not in the order listed in the Bible. It's going to have a little problem here reading my Bible that way. So I think, let's just see. I'm going to go ahead and leave the design saved. And let's see if I can fix that query to come out in the proper order. And then see if my report comes out in the proper order. So here's my parallel query. Remember those connections between the two tables, meaning when I show Genesis 1:1 here, it better be only Genesis 1:1, not and only that verse each time I list a verse. Let's sort this. Remember how we sort this? Let's go sort it by increasing book number. Now it doesn't matter which table I choose book number from because it's related reference in all three. I'll choose book number, chapter, and verse. Sort ascending on each of those by double-clicking. Sort ascending, sort ascending. I don't really need to see them, so I'm going to uncheck since I'm already showing them over here in the book name, chapter, verse. I can sort them on 3 columns. And notice it's okay to ask for the verse in 2 different columns. That's perfectly fine. Doesn't make sense to show them both. Now when I view the results of this query, I do have the Bible sorted properly, so I'm going to save that. Now let's go back to that report and see if my report comes out sorted now. Remember that report was based on that parallel query that I just modified. Let's see if my report comes out better. Uh-oh, my report is not sorted. Let's see if I regenerate the report, whether it'll come out in the proper order. Let's go to the query, create report. Look at that. They're not coming out sorted, even though this is sorted. Now that's bothering me. Why does it come? This produces a sorted Bible, but if I create a report on that query, oh, it doesn't like to have that open. If I create a report on that query, it's not coming out sorted. That is irritating. I thought that if the query was sorted, my report would be sorted. Well, there's a mystery I'm not going to have you solve. But remember the 3-click method. If you want to create a report on a table or query, click once on the query or table, create, and then report. Same thing for a form. If I want a form to view, let's see if the form comes out sorted. We choose the table, we choose the create, and choose form. And if I want to view the form view, I do have the form. It is coming out sorted in my form. I'm not sure why the report isn't sorted. The form is sorted like I expected. So that was a quick review of the things you can do in Access. Adjusting the structure by adding fields. Remember, adding fields is safest because it doesn't mess up relationships with other fields. If I wanted to modify some fields, that's when things get dangerous because I might break something. Yeah, I guess I'll say that. Because the relationships in other queries may depend on the structure existing. If you change the existing structure, you can break other queries. But that's something you leave to your database expert. Now you'll be familiar with the things they're talking about and charging you for if you work with someone, because you have some now mild experience with Access and databases. If this is coming easy to you, you enjoy working with this and the technical challenges, you may think that you could train someone else to use Access because you figured it out, or you could decide you want to get deeper into database programming. That is a whole career field you can get into if you understand and enjoy working with databases, because there's so much data out there valuable to many people. All right, we'll stop there. You can turn in your Bible database up to Schoology, and we'll see you Wednesday. And we're singing Christmas carols in the chapel. Uh-huh.
For Deck the Halls, I was wondering if I could borrow your Christmas tree that's
Oh, sure.
outside your office.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank
When
you.
is that happening?
I think it's Friday evening.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Right, thank you.
Always happy to help with the festivities.